Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be ranking pretty much every single NPC. Now, of course, I cannot do this alone, so I'm going to have Igknight the Fire help me with this impossible feat. So, give him a warm welcome, Igknight the Fire.
Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for a brand new collaborative video. So naturally, whenever you see Skylanders Gamer TV on film, he's always wearing a mask, and so naturally to replicate that I decided to throw in a face mask of my own. And with that all being said and done, as you know already, this video we are going to be ranking every single Skylanders NPC, and so naturally that's an awfully large task for one single person to take on, so that's why I'm here helping Skylanders Gamer TV out today with this ranking video of his. And when it comes to the ranking list itself, if you disagree, then please direct your hate towards Skylanders Gamer TV, because he's the one who designed this list and not me, so leave me out of it. I am joking, of course. This is a great list and I cannot wait to break it down with my good friend Skylanders Gamer TV. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay, well, with all that being said, let's get into ranking every single NPC. Now, real quick, I just want to say there's 50 of these guys, okay? So my list is not going to be like yours probably, if you even have a list, that is, of 51 NPCs. But guys, tell me like your top 5, top 10 NPCs in the comments below. Let's go. So number 51, to no one's surprise, is Rufus. I don't think I have to explain myself. You can't skip his dialogue and he just loves to talk. Screw you, Rufus.
Coming in at number 50 is Quigley, an NPC which has very little personality, unfortunately. You know, for one, a personality trait of this character is that he's a kid, so he has a low-pitched, annoying voice. Not that all kids have annoying voices, but this guy most certainly does. I do like the fact, though, that this NPC has unique phrases based on what Skylander interacts with him, but outside of that, it's just a bland and forgettable NPC, really.
So next we got Hermit, the Hermit. He doesn't really do anything bad, but he should have been a more important character. But he just never does anything except take you to one of the levels in Giants. And that's pretty important, but they just kind of write him out the story the entire game, which makes no sense, so you can't really put him up any higher. The Chiefess, she barely appears in the game. Boring.
Next up we have Diggs, a blind Molkin who seems to fake having a leg injury so you can push him in a minecart because he's a lazy bastard. Yeah, that sounds like the making of a perfect NPC right there. Why is he as low as he is?
Next is Gorm. He replaces Persephone, who is way better than him, but he just has nothing to him. And Persephone was at least interesting. He's just like a meathead who does nothing. Right after Gorm is his brother Tuck. Tuck doesn't commit as many sins as Gorm, but he does replace Oric, which, I mean, Oric is not that important either, but I like Oric better than Tuck. They're both really just nothing characters, and they're just there to fill roles.
Next up is Pongfrey. This guy has an epic voice. It's perfect for narrating because you get to hear it during atmospheric and tense moments of the books in the Spellpunk library. So I love the dialogue delivery of this character, but unfortunately he's just not got too much of a character outside of those books. Like, those books are his character, and because of that, outside of the books he becomes very forgettable and just kind of meshes in with the other forgettable NPCs due to a lack of distinguishability of the character.
Next we got Ari, who is not really even in the game, but you can buy hats from him and superchargers, so that's cool, but I guess that's it. Really nothing to him, sadly. Okay, so the next NPCs actually have some relevance towards them. Finally, Fender, Socket, and Clyde. If you don't remember these guys, these are the sharks at the pit stops that can mod your vehicle, so they actually have some relevance in the game. Pretty epic. Grizzo the Greeble, that gives you elemental vehicle challenges in superchargers. If you like vehicle sections, you probably like Grizzo, or at least the purpose that he serves. But for someone like me, who doesn't really care that much for the vehicle sections, he's just kind of useless there, and he just really is there to just talk to me whenever I go to the academy, which is kind of annoying.
Number 40, we have Grandmaster Camouflage, a very charismatic character, shall we say. She's very chaotic and all over the place, which is a great way to represent her mindset, I suppose. So she definitely is a well thought through NPC, and she's very memorable due to just how charismatic she is. But outside of her level, she's not incredibly memorable, and she's just not got the same kind of charm as other NPCs do. Therefore, she's number 40 on the list, all the same.
Haldor the Sorcerer, that you meet in the level Empire of Ice. He really just follows you around and gives you information for what you need to do. I actually like him as a character, as an NPC, but sadly he's only in one level, so I can't really justify putting him any higher up on the list. Flavius is another one of these NPCs that only appears in one level, but plays a major role in that level. Whenever you fly around in Dragon's Peak, he comes to pick you up, and he tells you what happens in the beginning of the level, and also talks to you at the end of the level.
Number 37 is Dreadbeard. He is one of the villains of Skylanders, so naturally that does make him quite intimidating, but you always wind up besting him in a game of cards, whether that's, pirate cards or Skystones. So either way, the fact that you beat this guy so easily even does take away from a lot of that intimidation, but still, he's got a really creative design, and I like his dialogue too. It's very well voiced, similar to that of Pomfrey. But again, he's just not as memorable and fleshed out as other NPCs, hence why 37 is perfect for him.
Next on the list is Oric, and he really should be higher on this list because he technically is a main character. He's in the first 2 games and appears in the Academy in Trap Team, but he barely ever talks to you outside of when you have to go out of your way to talk to him, because he can sell you Skystones and things like that. Honestly, he should have played a bigger role because he's there the entire games usually, but he just sits around and does nothing. He kind of got screwed over, really. Bob, that's right, Bob is next. Since probably a lot of you don't have the Cursed Tiki Temple because of how badly it was sold, Bob is an NPC in this level. He's a floating tiki head that you need to return to his rightful stone chair thingy. I don't really know what it is, but he's pretty funny. I like him. Again though, another NPC that only appears in one level, so I can't put him much higher on the list. The next 5 NPCs are Skylanders from Imagineers that were turned into NPCs, but the first one is Jetvac. He's just boring, and he does play a bigger role than the next character on the list, but Jetvac is just boring.
For number 33, we have Pop Fizz from Skylanders Imaginators. Now, you think that normally you couldn't go wrong with Pop Fizz, but in Imaginators they most certainly did. Like, sure, they definitely captured the chaoticness of the character, but unfortunately you so rarely see him in the game that he's not really fleshed out, and you don't get to see the Pop Fizz we all know and love, especially since in Beast Mode he acts rather quite dumb, honestly, and he's just not the most fun to interact with in comparison to the other NPCs of Imaginators, so that's why Pop Fizz is 33, I suppose.
Right after Pop Fizz is Spyro, and he really should be the top of these NPCs that are from Imaginators, but he's really boring again, and adds nothing. Like, he could have really been replaced with any other dragon, and there would have not been that much of a change. Kinda sad really that he just turns into a nothing character. So for the rest of the video now, all the NPCs I can say I do enjoy whenever they come up on screen, and I don't let out a big sigh. Eruptor is next, and he actually is semi-funny. Like, I don't think we were really expecting him to pull out any good old knee slappers or anything like that, but sometimes he's kind of funny, and he has that going for him. Really, he's not that special, but you definitely could not replace him with anyone like Spyro.
For number 30, I get the honour of speaking about the best Skylander NPC of all of the Skylanders NPCs from Imaginators, and that is going to be Stealth-Elf. I mean, of course, she's naturally the best. She's charismatic, she actually progresses the plot forward as she's sneaking around at Chaos's castle to discover his plot, and she's the one who finds leads. So naturally, she's a badass throughout the story, and she's really fun to interact with. Her chemistry with Eruptor in particular is really fun and well captured. So Stealth-Elf is just a thoroughly enjoyable NPC that both captures the heart and charm of the character, as well as provides you with the most layers and fun of any of the Skylanders NPCs from Imaginators.
Now we got Moneybone. After Stealth-Elf, he is pretty funny. He's the one who, tries to kill you basically in that boss fight, which is basically impossible on Nightmare mode, but on any other modes, it's really easy. It's very weird. I like how he tries to act all tough and stuff when he really isn't that tough, and it just makes him a better character. And he's also on the 3DS Skylanders of Swap Force as the main villain in that one too. But I just like how he kind of interacts with Chaos at some points, how he is for some reason afraid of Chaos despite looking like he could probably beat him in a fight, but who knows. I like Moneybone though, he's a cool character. Chaos's mom is a character that really didn't even need to exist at all, but they made a fun character in NPC anyway. In her boss fight, I love how they use the portal power to defeat her, I guess, and she's pretty funny too, and then she eventually gets defeated in Swap Force, but I like when she was there. Nice touch. General Robot, an NPC that needs to get more love in my opinion. He's just your basic general character, but a robot that's lit. A robot that's a general, that's really cool. He also shoots you off in a cannon whenever he sends you to missions, and I also love his voice, and he's there for a good portion of SSA.
Number 25 is Gurglefin. I really like Gurglefin, actually. I think he's pretty funny. He's basically just Gilgrunt, but a scaredy cat. He brings you to all the water levels. He's very fun. Some of the water levels are actually my favorite levels, so he brings you to some of my favorite levels, which is really cool. Yeah, Gurglefin's awesome, so that's why he's here.
Softpaw is an NPC that only shows up for 2 levels. I know I'm going to sound hypocritical because I put NPCs lower on this list because they didn't show up in a lot of levels, but hear me out. He is such an interesting character. Like a spy character, that's awesome. And I was so hyped to see him again in Superchargers. He made the Land of the Undead so much better. Both levels where he appears, he makes the levels a lot better just because of how he works. He's pretty funny, and I like how he just pops out of nowhere a lot of the times, and he likes to hide in a bucket. That's cool. The next NPCs are 3 out of the 4 Mabu characters that we meet throughout the Skylanders series, and the first one is Nort. For me, Nort is just the most basic out of these 3. Not that he's a bad NPC, but the other ones have some funny lines, while Nort is mainly just there. He does have some lines that are, I guess, kind of funny, but he's just the most nothing out of the rest of them. But that is why he is not as good as the other Mabus, in my opinion. Next is Rizzo. Rizzo is the leader and the founding father of the Mabu Defense Force. You have to give him credit. He made the Mabu Defense Force the best defense force in all of history of Skylands, and that's awesome. I also like him as a character, as an NPC, and he does appear in a couple of games and levels as well.
So, besides one big Mabu character that we will get to eventually, I think Snuckles is the best one. He comes back as, I think, Special Agent Snuckles, which is pretty funny because he's just a very big scaredy cat. He's very scared and he's always like, oh, please, Snuckles, courage, or whatever, and he's always just, like, really scared. He doesn't want to ever admit it, though, except in Trap Team. When he hides from you, he actually admits that he's scared, and he's the only one that does that. So he actually has some sort of personality, so that's why he's the highest ranking Mabu.
Hedwig. Okay, look, I'm a big Hedwig defender. I don't understand why a lot of people do not like him. I think he's pretty funny. I think his voice is pretty weird, but that's what they were going for, so that's cool. And I love the way he just waddles around the levels that he appears in. He makes levels that he's in a lot better. He is kind of slow, so when you do have to follow him, it gets kind of annoying, but I think he's a pretty funny NPC, and when he has to describe stuff to you, I think he does a good job at it. Pendergast. Pendergast, the racing man, is next on the list. I think the Pendergast is funny, and his line delivery is awesome. I like how he knows Sharpfin, and Sharpfin doesn't like him that much. As an announcer, he also does his job very well. You know, he announces the racing games, and I think he's a pretty good NPC for that.
Coming in at 19 is Octavius, a villain that actually feels villainous, like he's out here taking over for Underworld, forcing the Underworld to feed on the living because he's not satisfied by the idea of the Underworld living off of pies. You know, it's a very bizarre motivation, but it certainly is an evil one all the same, and it's fleshed out, and it makes him just really incredibly intimidating. And on top of that, there's his design. He's effectively a giant eyeball, which is intimidating enough as is. And his voice, there's just such charisma in it. So naturally, he makes for an intimidating and fun villain to interact with, and that's what's perfect for a villain of Octavius's scale, mind you.
The Clamtron 4000, the best piece of machinery we have ever seen. Really, he doesn't do that much in the grand scheme of things, if I'm being honest. But I love how he makes bombs. I think that's great. He just makes bombs. They could have just made like a machine that shoots out bombs, not a character, just like a robot that just kind of shoots out bombs. But instead, they actually made an NPC and a good character at that. And they didn't need to do that, and I think that's just really cool how they went out of their way to make this guy a funny character. Okay, now I know she is a main character, but I don't care. At number 17 on the list is Callie. Just remember, there are 51 of these NPCs on this list, so I just couldn't put Callie any higher. I think that it's almost undebatable that she's the most boring main NPC out of them all. She is not really funny, and it's kind of just there so Flynn can flirt with her. Like, really, a hacky sack could have replaced her, and you probably wouldn't have even noticed it. She's really just there so Flynn can flirt with something, and that's it. Callie needs Flynn to be a character, really, while Flynn doesn't need Callie to be an awesome character. But she is a main character, so I had to put her semi-high on the list.
Coming in at number 16 there is T-Bone, who has a very memorable comedic style since he's constantly cracking jokes about skeletons, and he can because he is one. You know, if that in and of itself is the joke, and it's hilarious. It's what makes this character stand out. Even the fact that he just has humor that's completely unique to him and you don't find in any other NPCs, and it's just this charm and charisma that makes you want to interact with T-Bone more. So that, simply put, is why he's number 16 on the list.
Machine Ghost, the saddest death in Skylanders history, even though he doesn't actually die, but he's just so wholesome. What can I say? I love him. I cannot tell you how happy I was to see him at the end of the game, and he's the best ghost robot friend a person could ask for. So next is Arbo, son of Barbo, brother of Larbo, and you get the point. They love ending their names with Bo, I guess. I love how weird he looks. He has a trigger happy tongue that just hangs out, and the levels he brings you to are some of my favorites. His voice is amazing. They really wanted him to have a funny voice, and it works. He also comes back in Trap Team, and cool fact, my outro music is Arbo's music from Trap Team, so he gets some brownie points for that. I cannot tell you how underrated I think the Weapon Master is. He is such an interesting character. Like an old ancient robot that's been here for tens of thousands of years and wakes up once the threat of darkness becomes too much, his voice is so atmospheric and so cool. The levels he takes you on are some of my favorites. Quicksilver Vault and Arcane Armory are great. He also looks awesome. Like, he's an NPC, but he looks like a boss battle. Like, he looks like he could be a boss battle, but he's just an NPC. And he has more than 4 arms. He has 6 arms. That's more than Slam Bam. That should be impossible.
Number 12 is going to be Hugo. I actually like the fact that this guy is a huge nerd and a bit of a bookworm, because I myself was also a nerd. But either way, I also really like Hugo's charm and charisma. He's really entertaining, and the fact that, you know, he's effectively the main NPC in Spyro's adventure. He's the first NPC that's really layered and you get to really know and love. So naturally, Hugo's just really fun, and it's a shame he was sidelined in several games until Superchargers rolled around again and he was given the role that he deserves, because he makes for a really great lead, to be honest, just because of his natural intelligence and presence within the world of Skylands. He feels important, and that's what's great about a main NPC such as Hugo himself.
Brock is not a good NPC. Wrong answer. He's awesome. First of all, he brings battle arenas in the game, and you have to have massive respect for that. He's also an enemy character that turns good, which is kind of funny how he just, like, is really sad when you defeat him. He's like, oh, you know, I just wanted attention or something. It's like, is that too much to ask for? I don't think it is. And he just kind of dies. Well, not really. I just think he's really funny. Like, he's ironically funny. Like, the stuff he says isn't supposed to be funny, but it is. And overall, awesome NPC. Just imagine battle arenas without Brock. Blobbers, I'm very sad I could not put him as number 1, but a meme can sadly only get you so far. Even without the meme, Blobbers is hilarious. You meet him because he can't move a turtle out of the way, and he comes back in Cutthroat Carnival, and you just straight up leave him behind there. That's so messed up. But he somehow gets out, and we see him again in Trap Team. Awesome. And he even gets a whole level in Imaginaries where he basically almost restarts the Skylands. So, yeah. But then again, he saves you from the giant, like, robo thing at the end of the level, which is cool. He just comes in like a meteor and just hits it. That's funny. And yeah, Blobbers is a bit out of his mind at some points, but that's in the past. Blobbers is the best Mabu and a really good NPC.
Coming in at number 9, we have Eon. He's a great mentor type figure to you, and you can't wait to interact with him further through the cutscenes because he just has such a presence. You know, he is easily one of the biggest icons for Skylanders, and naturally, you know, he is the representation of what is good, what is light. And so, being able to see his face at the beginning and end of every Skylanders game just fills the Skylanders games with such memorability from beginning to end, because you just love seeing him in these cutscenes and listening to him commentate and mentor you, as he has a really just heroic voice that's really charming and great to listen to. So Eon is basically everything you want out of a main NPC for a franchise, even more so than Hugo, and that's why I love him so much.
Mags is next, and really there's one big reason why she's this high. It's the anime plot twist of Luminous and Mags. Like, can I get a bro moment for that? That's like such a anime plot twist. But other than that, she has some funny lines, and I'm impressed how big of an impact she made in Skylanders, despite the fact that she was only in the Skylanders story halfway through it, and really only appeared in 2 games. So that's why she gets number 8. Number 7, Tessa. basically a better version of Callie. I guess you could say that. I mean, she again is there just so Flynn can flirt with her, but she actually has a personality unlike Callie, so that's great. And seeing her interact with Flynn is way better than when you see Callie interact with Flynn. And she has whiskers, that's pretty cool. And she has a catchphrase too, Kablam, which is not as epic as Boom, but hey, she has one, so that's pretty cool.
Coming in at number 6, we have Persephone. I'm kidding, I know it was pronounced Persephone. And what's so great about her is her dialogue is very distinctive and unique to her because she speaks out of order, similar to how Yoda speaks from Star Wars. So naturally, you're not going to get that same charm or charisma from any other NPC even. So naturally, you want to go see her because she's fun to interact with. And on top of all that, in Swap Force, she was completely absent and you really felt it. The game really dragged and upgrading wasn't nearly as exciting without her. Like, she just added a lot of pizzazz, you could say, to the upgrading. Is why upgrading was as fun as it was. And so naturally, Persephone is an easy number 6 on the list for us both.
Next is Buzz, Flynn's father? What? Maybe? Again, was only brought halfway through the series and really is only in 2 of the games, but he still makes a big mark on Skylanders. Buzz and his secret ninja commando skills are great. The way he interacts with Flynn is awesome, and I think he's just a funny character too. And like he really takes himself super seriously, but it always just seems kind of as a joke, which is pretty funny. And he has a catchphrase too, Boomsticks. And in Superchargers, he's also great. I think the Trap Team version of him is better, but in both games, he plays a pretty big role. And yeah, Buzz is awesome. Sharpfin, the only new character in Swap Force that was not there to fill a role. Let's be honest, Tessa was there to fill Callie's role and Gorm was there to fill Persephone's role. But Sharpfin was not there to fill a role. He's a new character, which is great. He's the highest ranking NPC from Swap Force, and he comes back in Superchargers. And I like that because he definitely fits the darker theme of Superchargers. Also, he's a blue shark, so that's cool, obviously. Next is Glumshanks. And, you know, he's only an NPC in one of the games, but he's such a wholesome character. And his sacrifice is beautiful. I mean, we all knew he wasn't actually dead, but still. The relationship between him and Chaos is super complicated, but it's so funny to watch it play out, and Glumshanks is loved by the community, and I can understand why too. He's a great NPC.
For number 2, we have Chaos! How can you not love the main villain of the Skylanders franchise? Like, he was used again and again, because he's just so entertaining as a villain. And on top of that, he also has his intimidation behind him. You know, seeing his giant floating head in Spyro's Adventure is pretty terrifying. Not to mention he's powerful, he has armies of dark warriors. And so naturally, this guy is a force to be reckoned with. I know that through the games we kind of take the mickey out of this character a lot, but naturally the kind of bullying of this character almost gives him further layers, and it kind of irons out his motivation a little bit more, because perhaps if he wasn't bullied so much by Skylanders and of course his dark traumatic past without a fatherly figure, at least that's what's implied, then maybe he wouldn't have been as villainous as he is. And that's what makes Chaos so interesting as an NPC to me. There's an element of relatability there. There's also just a great amount of charm and charisma. Like, seriously, Skylanders got it right the first time with Chaos, so why fix something that ain't broken? That's why they kept using him again and again, because he's just so fun as a villain and such an intimidating force that he still works as a villain.
Number 1 is Flynn. I mean, come on. How could he not be number 1? He's the funniest character out of all the NPCs. Probably all of them combined, he's still funnier than all of them. Yeah, a lot of his jokes are just super elementary, and he even makes a fart joke in one of the games. It's dumb humor, but I love dumb humor. He never really takes anything seriously, so that's fun to watch him just stumble his way through the Skylanders games. It's amazing. I love how he just flirts with Tessa and Callie whenever he gets the chance. I love that he's just so humble. You know, he doesn't have a big ego at all. He's really humble, guys, right? And that's funny. I think Flynn is also the best, you know, he's the best pilot in Skylanders. How can you not like him? He's not only the best pilot in Skylanders, he's also the best NPC in Skylanders.
So that basically does it for my portion of the collaboration. A huge thank you to Skylander Gamer TV for letting me onto this collaboration. This face mask was a celebration of that in some way or another, and it's definitely been a very different aesthetic I've had on film, because I don't think you guys have ever seen me in a face mask before. But regardless of all that, I will be seeing you in another video, but until that moment arises, peace!
Well, yeah, that's me and Igknight's list for the NPCs. Now, obviously, I don't expect you guys to make an entire list of NPCs, 51 to 1 in the comments, but if you want to give me your top 5, top 3, whatever, tell me what you think about Flynn, because Flynn is just epic. But anyway, guys, go subscribe to Ignite the Fire. His channel's in the description below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and thank you guys for watching.